Botswana is at a crossroads. After decades of relying heavily on diamond revenues, the country is facing a sharp economic downturn. GDP shrank around 3% in 2024, and recent data shows a 5.3% year on year contraction in Q2 of 2025, tied to weak demand in the diamond sector. In response, President Duma Boko has announced plans to launch a citizenship-by-investment scheme aiming to channel fresh capital into sectors like housing, tourism, and renewable energy to shore up the state's finances. Well, to help us unpack what all of this could mean economically, socially, and politically, we have with us Setho Mongatane, who's a Botswana-based personal finance educator and human rights activist. Setho, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's a pleasure to have me here.
So what's your
And
take?
good morning to the listener.
Thank you so much. So what's your take on this move to, I mean, I guess it's selling citizenship. What does it tell us about the state of Botswana's finances and economic health right now?
Peter, I think the sentiment on the ground, I mean, we heard the announcement at the same time as the world. Such an announcement, of course, will only be solidified if it goes into Parliament, where our laws and our policies are made. But it has yet been to go in Parliament to be gazetted and to be debated. So we are also just looking to see what the parameters are. So currently in the country, we're also having these conversations because it's newly introduced, but it's understandable if we look at the trajectory of Botswana's growth. I mean, Botswana was one of, at some point, we had an economy growing in the double digits to your 10% to 11% from where we were at independence to where we are. A lot of that growth that included, of course, FDI was not really retained as much as possible in the country because we've got a very open door policy and there has been ability for people to come into our country and create value, but at the same time repatriate value to their own countries. And I think the president's thinking is around that citizens stay, and therefore if somebody comes and invests and are a citizen and they stay, it would kind of reduce the tax of those that come in as FDI and repatriate profits that then, yes, they create jobs, but in the end they do not really benefit Botswana in the long term. So part of the diversification value is not just to get into other minerals, as the president has said. It's not just to look at industries such as manufacturing, but it's to look at the longevity of the value that is created. And this, I think, is one avenue where you can ensure that people are coming in to invest and they're staying, versus coming in to invest and then repatriating the profits.
So the government says that these proceeds are going to go into housing, tourism, renewable energy to state some. I guess realistically the question might be, can those sectors absorb that capital and deliver returns to the investors strong enough, though, to stabilize national finances? Are they big enough sectors for that?
I can even challenge you for that right now, Peter, that if you go into any of, I mean, the tourism is the third biggest contributor to our GDP. And if you know our numbers, Botswana's GDP is huge. But we've got even a lot of these agencies where our creme de la creme of the tourism, you get to pay outside. You pay to accounts in South Africa. You pay to accounts in the United States. So the money never even comes to the country. So if we turn around our model to a point where our resources, our natural resources, are able to bring money into the country, I think that would be a good thing. And some of these operators that I'm talking about, they are in leases that are owned by tribes, by people around them, and their concessions are ending. So if the president is saying, let's replace those by those that are citizens that are going to create this value, but that are going to live here. I think it's a turnaround. It seems a little dreamy, but if it's implemented properly, then we can retain the value that has been siphoned from this country. But so yes, Peter, we are like every other African country, a country with a huge youth dividend that half of them right now don't have homes. We have a country that has an as much as I said, is the third most contributor to the GDP, our tourism is still very yet untapped. There's so much potential that can be put into them. So all of the industries that the president has talked to have been, even by the World Bank and other matrices, have been called underutilized. So there's space for growth.
Perhaps I'm being a little naughty by describing it as selling citizenship, but I mean, it's not
Yes.
unusual. A lot of countries around the world will offer you
Yes.
citizenship in return for investment. Is there going to be some social or ethical pushback from Botswana over this issue?
I think they could, and as I say, this is an announcement that was done offshores. It has not yet been gazetted, which means that now the voice of the people has not been heard on it. The expectation would be on November the 10th, the SONA Parliament will be on. Maybe we will hear a draft bill go into Parliament, and then that's when we can really understand the parameters around it. But the pushback, yes, because there has been a citizen empowerment act that has been put in Parliament, and that was because, just like South Africa, Botswana is one of the most unequal countries in the world, and you find that wealth is held by majority by non indigenous citizenry. So there has been those conversations on how do we ensure that we localize our wealth. We create within the big industries, we create opportunities for Botswana, we create value chains, and we actually roll out the red carpet, as the president has said before, for local investors in the same spirit that we do that for foreign investors. So I think there will be those conversations, and his President Boko's administration has said to us that it is a human rights government, and economic rights are human rights. I think that's something that, as Southern Africa, we have not talked about enough. That economic rights are human rights. You can protect somebody's life, you can protect, but without economic freedom, without inclusion into commerce, then you're not doing anything. So these conversations are necessary to ensure that when this happens, local citizens, indigenous persons are not kept away from the value that is created by the local resource.
I am curious about the property sector. What I've seen in South Africa, for example, is that if you're in England and you have money, you can buy property in Cape Town, prime land, for much cheaper than buy it in other parts of the world. What it then does actually is price out locals from local property. Is there not a fear that could happen in Botswana?
It's already happening. It's already happened for the past 10 years. What it has done is it's created a bubble where and by the way, Peter, property in Botswana is it's way more than in South Africa. So it's already very problematic. But it's created a bubble where properties are overinflated, and it's unfortunate that that when that bubble bursts again, it would affect the most marginalized. So there has been initiatives by this current government to ensure that those that don't have as much as others are able to own homes through the Bonno scheme, which is aiming, and if you know Botswana, we are like 2.5 million, which is also aiming to have 100,000 homes in the hands of those that deserve them in 5 years. So it's I can say, noble initiative by government. to be able to give mortgages for the unbanked, and be able to give those housing schemes that will put homes in people's hands. And by doing that, then you are investing, really reducing the market needs, and kind of in a way controlling the market. There's also been a lot of lobbying by civil society to have a rent controlled and mortgage controlled environment, which are conversations that continue to say, are we a free market economy? How do we, in a free market economy, then bring regulation to rent, to bring regulation to mortgages, but in an attempt to ensure that we also are protective of the housing market. So these are conversations that are happening in the country as the new administration. A lot of what people have always asked for, but had never been brought to high-level consultative places, and it's now happening, and kind of solutions are being forged. So I think we will find a solution to this, but it's not going to be brought in by the selling citizenship. It's already existing in the country as we speak, Peter.
So overall, your gut feeling is if it's done properly, it's not a bad thing.
Yes. Plus, we have also been inviting people. We're a middle income economy with only 2.5 million people. So the need to attract people to our country has always existed. But if those that come in are also bringing in value, bringing in jobs, contributing positively, then it can be a good thing in the long run for us.
Setho, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much indeed for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. Have a beautiful day.
Same to you. That's Setho Mongatane, who's a Botswana-based personal finance educator, human rights activist, talking to us about Botswana's plans to incentivize foreigners getting citizenship through investment in the country. Not a new concept, but perhaps something that needs careful planning being put in place.